By 30th June of every year, we are normally required by KRA to file our tax return. If you're on a payroll, for you to file your tax return, you need to have a copy of your P9. Now, this P9 is a document that has your monthly gross salary, your pension deductions, your tax relief, and taxes. But I'd like us to look at our monthly gross salary, the column for your monthly gross salary. If you filed your returns, you can have access to you can remember what figure you had there as your annual gross pay, your annual gross income. Now, I'd like you to make a mental note of that figure. And then, can you try to imagine how much of that earnings you had retained as your savings? If, for instance, you are on a salary, a gross pay of 100,000 shillings, or you are on a net pay of 100,000 shillings, that means that from January to December, you had earned a sum of 1.2 million. Now, out of this 1.2 million, how much do you still have with you? How much did you retain as your savings? Forget about the interest earned on that savings. How much do you have out of this 1.2 million, the amount you earned for the entire financial period, the previous year? How much of this amount do you have in your savings? And do you know why at the end of the year, having woken up very early in the morning to go to work and coming back home very late, sometimes you don't even get to see your children because you get held up at work, you get held up in traffic. Yet at the end of the year, you have nothing to show for it. Bad spending habits. Bad spending habits. So today in this video, we are going to go through the bad spending habits. What are these spending habits that makes you have nothing to show for the entire year that you have been working? What are these bad spending habits that leaves you with nothing to show for the hard work you have put in for your employer throughout the year? Those who receive bonuses, you're lucky. You could be lucky, yeah? But how much of those bonuses, how much do you retain? What do you have to show for it? I'm not talking about the loans you took and bought your vehicle. I'm not talking about the loans you took to go for your holidays. No, I'm talking about the net pay you receive in your bank account every month. At the end of the year, what do you have to show for it? Is there an amount sitting in one of the accounts as part of your savings or as part of your investments? Bad spending habits. What are these bad spending habits? These are habits that hinders you or that derails your financial growth. Now, first in line of these bad spending habits is waiting to save after you have spent. Waiting to save after you have spent. What do I mean by that? When you receive your pay, 1 million, 500,000, 30,000, whatever amount your net pay is, instead of allocating an amount of that pay, of that net pay towards savings, you spend first. You spend on your rent, you buy your groceries, spend on whatever expenditures that you have, both the needs and wants. And then, after you have spent, whatever amount you are left with is what you save. That's not how it's supposed to be. You need to do your budget, know how much you are saving, pack aside your savings, and then the balance of that from your net pay after you have saved is what you need to be spending, of course, within your budget. When you decide to spend first, then you save, more often than not, you'll be left with nothing to save because money has a diminishing utility power. You can never ever get enough money for your expenses or for your desires. The more you get money, the more your utility need increases. And that's the exact reason why even people who are billionaires still vie for positions. Warren Buffett, for instance, is still investing. Elon Musk is still investing. So you can never really have enough money such that you are in a position to spend on your needs and remain with an amount or some amounts for you to save. That will never happen. That will never happen. So that is the reason why when you have your net pay or when you have your net revenues, you need to first allocate an amount towards savings. And then the balance from the balance of your savings from your net pay or from your net revenues is what you now budget, is what you now spend according to your budget. Okay? Spending money, saving after spending money. That's a bad financial habit that you need to unlearn if you need or if you desire to attain financial freedom. Now, another bad financial habit that you need to unlearn is not keeping track of your expenses. And I know how terrible this can be. There are days when I would not know. You have M-Pesa balance in your account, 150,000, 2-3 weeks down the line, you don't have the money is not in your balance. Money is not in your M-Pesa balance, but and you can't quite remember exactly what you did with this money. You can't remember what you did with this money. You have to go through your M-Pesa transactions one at a time to recall how you spent the money. Spending without tracking your expenses. When you don't track your expenses, you are most likely going to spend in non-essentials, leaving behind the essentials. And when that happens, you are going to get into our third bad spending habit, which is borrowing for consumer needs. Borrowing for consumer needs. Your friends are going for a holiday. They've tapped your loan. You don't have money, you borrow so that you can fit in. Borrowing for consumer needs. Now, I have done a complete video on how to get out of debt. I'm going to leave it in the comment section so that you can have a look at it. It's a comprehensive video on how you can get out of debt. Now, that brings us also to the fourth point, which is trying to keep up with your friends. Your friend has bought the latest car. You also want to buy a car. Your friend took his family or their family for a holiday. You want to go on a holiday. Your friend has moved to this estate. You want to move to that estate. Your friend has taken their children to this school. You also want to take your children to that school. Apana. People have different financial goals. People have different level of incomes. You can never ever keep up with somebody else's lifestyle, not unless you have the same financial goals. Remember, your household could probably be different. Your salary levels could probably be different. Your family background could be different. You could be supporting your family back at home, and he has no family to support back at home. Yet you want to keep up with their lifestyle. That is a bad spending habit that you need to unlearn. Another bad spending habit that you need to unlearn is spending to feel better. You feel like your emotions are low. You've gone on a holiday. Your spouse or your boyfriend has not called you. You've gone to drink. Spending to feel better. You walk into a clothes shop which you had not planned for, and you walk out with a heavy basket of clothes, change of clothes. Why? Just because you want to feel good about yourself. You didn't budget for your spa treatment, but you want to feel good about yourself. So you go for the spa. And then what happens next? You come back to borrow. It is okay to reward yourself. It is okay to spend on yourself, but it needs to be within your budget. Budget to pay yourself. Spending to feel good will certainly lead you to debt, because like I have told you, the money has an infinite utility power. You can never have enough money to the extent that you'll feel like you have enough, you have achieved. Another bad spending habit is letting your debt to accumulate. Remember I told you, debt reduces your purchasing power. It reduces your disposable income. How does debt, what is disposable income? Disposable income is the income you have to spend. From your gross salary or from your gross earnings, you deduct your taxes, your loan repayments, and then the balance of that, of course, after deducting your NHIF and housing levy, whatever, the balance of that remains in your account that you can now spend, you now get to choose on how to spend, is what is called disposable income. Now, when you have debt and money has been credited into your account, whereas you would have spent your 500,000 net earnings on your rent and shopping and groceries and what have you, you'll have to pay back the money that you borrowed, plus the finance charges or plus interest. Now, the moment you start servicing that interest, your purchasing power has been reduced. So that's a bad spending habit, accumulating bad debt. And bad debt, like we had said, is debt that does not earn you any income. That is debt that does not help you to acquire assets, consumer debt. Another bad spending habit is defaulting in your debt. Now, the moment you default in your debt, certainly your credit score goes down. And the moment your credit score has gone down, it means that when you borrow, whenever you want to borrow, you'll be considered as a risk, as a high risk, and financial institutions offers credit to high-risk individuals or high-risk borrowers at a higher interest because you are riskier. There's a higher chance of you defaulting in your loan. So you'll be accessing credit at a higher interest. So defaulting in your loan is a bad spending habit. You need to prioritize loan payments. As a matter of fact, if it is possible, you need to fast track your loan payment because ideally, you need to be getting yourself out of debt. Bad spending habits. Another bad spending habit is not paying attention to the account rates. Saving on your saving account, you're not paying attention. You don't know how much you're earning. On your loans, you don't pay attention on the interest that you're being charged. That's a bad spending habit. You need to pay attention to the interest or the finance charges that you incur in a particular period. With the same breath, you also need to pay attention to the income you earn on your savings. Bad spending habits. Another bad spending habit is paying for convenience. Paying for convenience. You want to be receiving, you don't want to hustle yourself with going to the market to buy things, going to the supermarket, cooking, what have you. So you have somebody delivering for you your groceries, you have somebody, you want milk, you go online, it's delivered to you. Remember, these things comes at a cost. You don't want to cook your meals, you want to take out, it comes at a cost. You want to go somewhere, you're always on Ubers, comes at a cost. Paying for convenience, that's a bad spending habit. You are enriching other people instead of working on yourself. So that is a bad spending habit that you need to try and unlearn. I'm not saying do not ever take Ubers. No, I'm not saying don't order in, apana. But when you make it a lifestyle, that becomes a bad spending habit because it increases your expenses. Now, the last spending habit that I'm going to mention is making impulse purchases. An impulse purchase is when you buy things that you had not budgeted for. You buy things that you had not planned for. Maybe because it's on offer, or maybe because you have just seen it, or maybe because somebody else is buying now you're also going to buy. Impulse purchases. Even if you have sufficient amount of money at that particular instance, you might end up buying things that you do not need, or you might end up buying things that you actually need, but it's not a priority at that particular instance. It's not a priority at that particular instance. Now, if you're able to work on these bad spending habits that I have mentioned, it will be possible for you to move towards financial independence and financial freedom. Okay? Bad spending habits. Which of these bad spending habits are you struggling to get out of, or are you struggling to unlearn? I will tell you my bad spending habit. I'm an impulse purchaser. Whenever I walk into the supermarket and I find there's an offer, I'd always want to grab that offer. Then what happens when I get home? I realize I have used money which I had budgeted for something else, and now I have to realign my budget. Bad spending habits. If you don't subscribe to this channel, that is a bad spending habit too. Please press the subscribe button.